All right, well, hey everyone. I'm here with Nate Parrish, guitar player of Cutlass.
Yeah.
He's just about to release his debut solo record called I'm a Wreck on June 19th. It's pretty awesome. You guys should check it out. So for someone who might not be familiar with you, how would you describe your type of music in a nutshell?
Ooh. It's kind of it's influenced by a lot. It's hard to like put yourself in a genre because it's subjective, but I can tell you what I like, and those influences are in there. Kind of classic punk rock sounds, a little bit of Ramones in there, Social Distortion, The Replacements. So kind of, that straightforward, just kind of rock and roll stuff. Yeah, it's rock music.
Cool. And there's definitely a lot of like deep messages on the album. What do you hope that people take away from it?
That the album was a sort of an experiment. I started writing it about a year ago, writing and recording one song at a time, depending on, what was going on in my life, or, and so it's sort of like a retrospection of, the path that my life was taking or is taking. And I think a theme is, especially with the society we live in, I think we're losing the ability to come together. I think we're taking the easy way out, and if someone disagrees with us, they're out of our lives, or we don't listen to them, or we don't want to hear their perspective. And we are constantly, it seems like, calling for unity and to work together and to come to some sort of compromise, but you can't, by definition, come to a compromise unless you have differences. So you have to acknowledge that. And that's where true unity, not uniformity, but like actual unity, is different people, different perspectives working together for a common good. And so I'd say maybe the message of it is, we're contradictory as humans. The artwork on the front of the album, it's like this skull, and the little elements are contradictory. So his teeth are like plus and minus signs if you look at it. And basically, we're, as humans, as believers, as a Christian, I am living for a kingdom that's just not here. Like I'm living in this world, but yeah, I'm trying to, I guess, show the perspective of a kingdom that's just not here. We don't see it. And so it seems, and that's where I'm a Wreck comes from. It's just like this constant kind of collision of things, and just learning how to navigate that, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a lot of words, but it's not a nutshell at all. But
Okay. Now, it's cool to have music out there too that challenges people to think. It's not just fluff.
Yeah.
It's good music too, so that's really cool.
Thank you.
It's interesting that the first song on the album is called I'm a Wreck. The last song on the album is called Hope. It's kind of like the opposite ends of the spectrum of different life experiences. Is that intentional?
No. Now that you mention it, that is nice. No, actually, so those two songs were kind of the last songs written for the album. I had another song that was pretty much done, and it was on the album. And then when the whole COVID thing happened and we were put into quarantine, and I'm watching people just kind of, their lives are falling apart and everything is just so weird. So I wrote Hope in April, beginning of April. I wrote it, recorded it, got it, all the masters back, and put it on the album within like 2 weeks. So it just barely made it. And I took the other song off. And so I think it was kind of like this, not that the pandemic is awesome in any way, but like there's always rays of hope in things, silver linings, as the saying goes. So I think that was one of those things where it was like, as an artist, that's what you do when you see, you're kind of adversity comes in, that's how you react to it. And so I was like, I got to write a song for this to give people literally hope. That's what it's called. And so it just happened to be the last song on the album. So not intentional, but maybe it was just not intentional by me. Maybe it was a God. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been quite an interesting year. Things come into basically a standstill. So like, what has this time been like for you, and what do you feel God has been teaching you through this time?
So for me and my wife, we are out here in Bakersfield, and we're the worship and creative directors at a church. So we lead worship every Sunday, and then during the week sometimes too. So, with churches, they're basically been shut down, especially in California. And so overnight, the switch is we can't meet in person, so figure it out, and so we're doing streaming and we're recording ourselves, and we're doing quarantine style worship with our bandmates and stuff. And so it's been really weird because church is built around face-to-face community, and you're essentially taking that out. So it forces you to be creative, and then it kind of challenges your ideas of what worship or church is in general. Because a lot of people, I can't worship because you're on a screen. I have to be in person. I was like, well, then maybe it's not worship in the first place. If it's not between you and God, it has to be dictated by an environment. It's something to evaluate. So it's been a lot of self-evaluation for me. It's been weird, But I think the thing that I'm learning about is the fragility of life. And then you either let that cripple you, or you let it kind of push you to strengthen your resolve and like what you're about and what you're trying to accomplish with your short time on earth. You're either going to just abandon that, or you're going to really solidify it. So hopefully for me, I feel like it's been pushing me forward,
Yeah, well, that's cool. I actually work at a church, and it's been cool to see still the dedication, like your church, of reaching people, doing the online church, and maybe wouldn't come out on a Sunday morning are able to just, turn on their phone, their computer, whatever, and actually hear the message, reach more people that way.
Yeah, it's actually, so through church online platform, people can respond to the altar call. They can push a button and it raises their hand, and we've had over the last couple of weeks, like 54 of those, which is basically people responding to the gospel, which is more than we've had in person in a while. So that's cool. And then one of our campuses is downtown Bakersfield, and part of what we do is we provide breakfast for the homeless community. And so when we were forced to close, we wanted to keep that going. So we set up and worked with restaurants in our community to continue, even though we couldn't have church, we would set up out in front of the church with our masks and whatever, and still feed the homeless community. So it's weird. Like I wake up on a Sunday now and I don't go to church, but I live down the street from our church, and I can look and I see all of our people out there, and the homeless community is just like all out there. So it's kind of cool to see like the church is still doing God's work regardless of if people are in the building or not, which is kind of the point, right?
Yeah. It's definitely been cool to see God work through, even the challenging situation like this.
Yeah, for sure.
So there is a song on the record called Monsters with an interesting music video. What was the inspiration or the story behind the music video?
So me and my buddies that are in that video, we get together on Mondays, and we're total nerds. So we call ourselves the Monster Squad. It was like an 80s movie about these kids and you should look it up. It's awesome. But and basically what we do is we get together, we just eat, and then we watch really bad VHS movies. My friend Andrew he's a photographer, and he does my videos for me. And he super into like analog. He's really old school, so he's got a lot of vinyl, and he has it actually in that video. That's filmed on actual black and white VHS camcorder, so it's all analog. And all the special effects, which is like there's like a fog machine and different things that we do. There's like some stop animation. That's all actual practical effects. And so as a group of guys, we just really like that stuff. And so when I wrote that song, I wanted to do like a tribute to sort of that throwback analog old school monster movies and stuff. So yeah, that's literally what we did. And it was super fun. We were all cramped in this little bedroom, and it was so hot, and I was wearing like adult pajamas, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. Yeah,
it looks like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we almost beat each other up though, because it was so hot. We're just in each other's way.
Yeah.
And I did the makeup for like Jason, my bass player, was like the Dracula character, and it was fun. Yeah. So.
I see on your website you like to do a lot of artwork.
Yeah.
What would you say inspires you to create?
Yeah, I mean, lots of stuff. I think the last couple of years, I would have these like just random ideas that would pop in my head, like puns and different things like that. I'm like, oh, that'd be a funny picture. But I never did anything with it because I was like, well, it doesn't really like say anything. You know, it doesn't make like a strong like statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, it doesn't have to. It could just be for fun.
Yeah.
And that was like a novel concept for me. Like I'm a pretty lighthearted guy, but I take those things seriously. But I'm like, let me just make whatever pops into my head. So there's like a bunch of weird mashups of, I don't even know. There's tons of weird stuff on it. But I just started whatever pops in my head. If I heard or thought of a pun, I would sketch it and do that. So, anything from stuff, I just wanted to make stuff that made people laugh. It seemed like, the last couple of years, there was not a ton to laugh about with stuff going on. So I wanted to make people smile, but also, there's stuff that I want to make people think as well. So it's probably pretty much any range of emotion,
Yeah.
And that's why I call it the account I have is Nate Makes Stuff, because it's literally just stuff. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. It's just what I thought of that day or whatever. So
yeah, well, very cool. So how would you describe your time with the band Cutlass, and how would you say that has helped shape your music career?
Yeah, the Cutlass thing was interesting. I met them. I was in a worship band, like a rock worship band called Worth Dying For. I don't know if you've ever heard of that band, but we were sort of I was a screamer in the band, but it was like a worship band. And, we got on a tour with Cutlass like 12 years ago. Dang. And I, met James. I became close with James, and Nick was the guitar player at the time. We just kept in contact over the years. And about 5 years ago, I was doing like worship music with my wife, and we put out some music, and he texted me out of the blue. It's like, hey, do you want to play guitar with us? I was like, yeah. And I just learned the songs and went up there and played. And it's been a fun experience. It's different because, you're jumping. This is my first time jumping into another band. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That wasn't like, I didn't start the band. They had a long career before I ever got there. So it was a good challenge to learn all these new songs, learn a different style. And then funny enough, I was learning all the rhythm stuff. I spent weeks and I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And then James FaceTime, he's like, okay, so play the lead part for this song. I'm like, oh, you don't do that? And he's like, no, you're going to be the lead guitar player. You're doing all the lead stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Can I call you back? So it was a challenge for one, and it's just been cool to see, man, like it was kind of surreal, especially the first time when we played Strong Tower, and I was like, I'm playing Strong Tower with Cutlass. It's just, kind of crazy, and nothing that I had planned or even tried to do. It just was a door that opened, and we got to do a tour in Ukraine, and the government actually let us preach the gospel out in public, which previously had been against the law. And we were able to, during our concerts, we did these free open air concerts, and thousands of people were there. It was nuts. And we got to proclaim the gospel, and tons of people raised their hand, because you don't realize like that's the first time they heard the gospel.
Wow.
Literally that they were first generation Christians. And it kind of blows your mind when you grow up in America and you're like, everyone's born with the Bible in their hands. They weren't. And so that was pretty special. So it's been great. It's been a challenge, and it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll wrap it up with a last fun question here. Okay. If you could have any superpower, what would you want and why?
I love superheroes. So, I think about this a lot. I think that Thor is probably my favorite. So, if I had Mjolnir, his hammer, you could fly with that. You can command lightning with that. You could throw it. It comes back to you like a boomerang. That's a bunch of cool stuff right there.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like that would just being able to wield the hammer might be even better than, because, you know, most of the time you're just like, oh, to fly. Fly would be really fun, right? Yeah. But I can also do all this other stuff. So I'm going to just choose to be able to hold the hammer and be worthy. I think that's what
Sounds like a good choice.
Yeah. I actually have a Thor hammer. I have tons of Thor stuff in my office. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for your time. I enjoyed talking to you. Everyone out there, be sure you check out I'm a Wreck on June 19th.
June 19th. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.
You got it.
All right. See you later.
Yeah.